Welcome to Golden Mastermind Seminars Radio with your host, Jeffery Combs.
Jeffery Combs, President and Founder, Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. It is Tuesday afternoon, August 9th, Facebook Live. Welcome, everyone. My privilege and pleasure to be here with you this afternoon. I'm praying that everyone's experiencing great health. A lot is going on in the world today. So breathe, release, and tune in here this afternoon for a dose of inspiration. I'm just getting situated in the saddle here in the Golden Mastermind office. It's good to be here with you for Tuesday. I will let the Facebook Live populate, and then I will move into the inspirational portion of today's Facebook Live. Water brought to me by San Pellegrino. Jared Andra, good to see you this afternoon. Looking forward to our next coaching session. Jeffrey Feldman, always good to have you on Facebook Live. Beth Ireland says good afternoon. Thank you for being here. Jared also says good afternoon. Callie, good to see you this afternoon. The top, Carl Mason from Mexico, good to see you. Susie Watkins, what a pleasure to have you here on today's Facebook Live. Love coaching your daughter. I love coaching you and Michael. So I had the privilege of coaching Susan, her husband, and am presently coaching Anna Marie, their daughter. So what a great group of people here today. Privilege and pleasure. Carl says surprise. He is here by surprise. I am surprised, Carl, but also pleasantly surprised that you are here this afternoon. The syllabus for today's Facebook Live, right here it is. It's called Clarity on Command. I write out 7 bullet points, and then my assistant, Henry Klauke, then emails it out like this. Michael Gershon says hello, and James Pryor, formerly of Maine, who is now in Florida. Good to have all of you here this afternoon. Clarity on Command. So, and James puts up the red, white, and blue flags. Thank you very much. Very, very unique times. I'm sure everyone is aware what is going on in our country. So if you're not, you can find those resources. Content from today's Facebook Live. This book right here will assist you. It's called Transcending Levels of Consciousness. Paris Ramirez, good to see you this afternoon. So clarity on command means that I am always in clarity. It means clarity on command. I have the ability to create clarity. Clarity also means I know. It means you're in the know, in the now. So clarity in knowing, there is no doubt, there is no anxiety, there is no overwhelm. You're not relapsing into familiar feelings. You're able to breathe, release, and let go. And you have direction. You have clarity. It means you know. You're in the know. And so that is also called truth. If you're not in clarity, then that's unclear. And so when it's unclear, then the communication style that is spoken, or the spoken word, is I don't know, I'm not sure. If I had to say, probably, kinda, I guess. And so that's the communication style, the broken language of most of the world that is not in clarity. As you begin to access consciousness and be clear on who you are, that's the most clear that I am me, I am free, I'm a child of God, I am light, I am love. I mean, any terms that you use to reference self, being self, like your best self, instead of being, I don't know who I am. And this is why so many people, when they leave a relationship, they'll go, I'm not comfortable being alone, because they are comfortable being in dysfunction. And it's imperative that in clarity, you're able to be your best self and that you don't rely on others. Now, you can still have friends, mentors, coaches, confidants, people you trust, people that you're connected to. But in clarity, you know. You're not asking people for advice because you know. And when you're in the know, then you know. And that means that means exactly what it means. It means that in the know, there is no explanation required because you know. But once you get into the doubt, then you don't know, then you've moved out of knowing. And that's Knowing. I have an old book that I've had for many years called Inner Knowing. And that is wisdom. That is truth. That is belief. That is certainty. And when you vibrate and transmute from that, then you're not in anxiety, fear, and doubt. And if you can give yourself permission to be in that state of knowing several hours a day as you begin to develop that trust factor, you begin to trust yourself, and you're in that knowing an hour or two or whatever it is, then you still are going to have challenges relapsing because you're human. It's not normal, it's conditional, but the more that you recondition the neurological network of neurons that wire and fire that form your feelings to be in clarity. So clarity also is synonymous with sobriety, because in sobriety, you're addressing the brain fog. And if those of you actually have moved into a place where you're not eating toxic food, you're not drinking alcohol, or you're not in toxic relationships, and it's a combination and a concoction of all of it. But what it means is that as you are learning to let go, there's less and less brain fog. So when you drink, then there's going to be the residual effect of the yeast and sugar that creates the brain fog. And the older you get and the more you drink, the higher the tolerance. Now, a tolerance in any addiction, it doesn't mean that you can have a lot of it. It means you can have a little of it. It only requires a little because the tolerance is so high for you to be able to relapse back into a set of familiar feelings. And the more that you're able to let go, breathe, release, and let go, then you are you and you are free. And in that freedom, that emotional freedom that you're starting to experience, then you're in the know, and then you won't doubt yourself. What hinders so many people in owning a business or in multiple areas of healing, and I coach Carl Mason. I'm Carl Mason's coach. Carl's also a very, very successful quantum healer. Carl is a miracle worker. Carl lives in Mexico. He specializes in assisting people to overcome deeply, deeply debilitating diseases. He's also a cancer victor himself and assists people who have debilitating diseases. And he and I were discussing last night just how many people don't believe they can heal themselves. They've become dependent on the system. And the system is broken, as all of you, or most of you, understand that system is broken that we bought into in the 60s, that system of the family doctor that we bought into, who used to be on the football field and who we used to count on. And in my hometown, Dr. Hewen was our family doctor. He was a cool dude. His son played sports. He donated to all the sporting events. He was one of the richest guys in the town. And he was on the sidelines of the football game. He was the fucking man. We counted on him. He was my family doctor up until he died in my 30s. He was like one of those good Americans. Patriotic, stood by the flag, apple pie, baseball. I mean, you could count on him. You could depend on him. And that was a whole different era than in today's world. You know what today's world means. You're watching it happen. It's head swiveling. But when you go down that rabbit hole of what's going on, when you're down that rabbit hole and you're actually seeking the truth and you're able to digest it, you're able to receive it, that's a breath that you breathe into that. Because the truth in today's world, it's unique, isn't it? I mean, those of you who know what's going on, you know how unique it is. It's unique, and everything we thought we knew, that we used to trust. Now, I've been down the rabbit hole for 40 years, but specifically in 1997, I met a man named David Icke, who would have one of the biggest impacts on my life. I saw him speak 4 times. Then I met G. Edward Griffin, who wrote the book The Creature from Jekyll Island. I became fascinated with that content, and so I've been looking for the truth for multiple years. And so the truth can set you free, or the truth can traumatize you. It really depends on your mindset. So when you're in the truth, when you're in pure truth, you're in knowing. And when you know, you know. And in today's world, there's like so much going on. It's like, who's on first base? Who can we trust? Who's wearing the white hat? Who's wearing the black hat? I mean, so there's a lot to contend with, and that's why it's so important that your faith is like everything right now. Because if you don't have faith, then you're in fear. And if you're in fear, then you are easily conditioned and programmed. And then your body's going to break down. Practically everything around you will collapse when you're in anxiety, fear, and doubt. That's why the unwavering faith right now is so important. Not only now, but every time. But now we're really being tested. I mean, the reptilian brain is the reptilian brain and the reptilians, another topic that I will save for a live seminar. But once you understand how the amygdala is easily programmed, and how the amygdala will enlarge and brain fog comes out of it. It comes from trauma and programming. And that's why it's so important to have an understanding of who's on first in today's world. So you understand, is this a good guy or a bad guy? And are there any good guys other than the people that we can trust? And see, and when you're in trust, then you know. And when you know, then you know, and you don't doubt. And when you're not in doubt, your transmutational energy, you are transcending. So in transcending consciousness, you're elevating yourself energetically above courage. You access courage to know the truth. And then once you're in truth, you stay in it. And then when you stay in truth means you know. And when you know, you're not in anxiety, fear, and doubt. That's intuition. That's intuition. You're in intuition. Then the sixth sense of that is extrasensory perception. Means that you have an extra set of perception that most of the world doesn't access. They all have it, but they don't use it. And that is the slight edge for you, because when you have that slight edge, when you are in that extrasensory perception, you're in a high state of knowing. And there's possibilities that at times you will enter into stages of enlightenment. Now, in enlightenment, that's one of the highest levels of knowing you can possibly be. In transmutational energy, there will be times in your life when you're able to access that high state of consciousness, and you're in the zone of it. You are like in the zone, and the proof shows up at times. The parking space is there. You go to a game at Dodger Stadium or Yankee Stadium, and someone walks up to you and offers you a box seat, or any multitude of situations, or you're offered an upgrade on the first class seat, or you walk into a restaurant knowing you're going to have a great experience, and then the hostess, maitre d', leads you to the tufted, rounded booth where you have the best view, and you attract this waiter, waitress who gives you world-class service, and it's like everything's by design. It's in enlightenment. It's like in the zone, and that's hands-free zone. It's like by design. And those are divine moments, and you can create those on command more and more as you begin to live in the know, in the now, in clarity. So clarity is robbed of you and me when we're children, when we have parents, or we have brothers and sisters who criticize us, or we are sent through the educational system, and the educational system tells us that we are slow learning, we have challenges with our cleft, we have challenges enunciating. We're told this educationally, and then we are held back. And then we have to repeat a grade, and then we're called these names, and so then we're labeled. So these labels that we get put upon us as children oftentimes becomes what holds us back as adults, because we don't know how to let go. And I mean, how would you know how to let go unless you went out and sought it? It's not like it's taught. No one teaches letting go skills other than you enter in a 12-step program, and that's like the first state of enlightenment. Or, I mean, through prayer also in some cultures, you can learn how to let go and let God. But in neuroscience, there's another level of that it's like you have to change the reflexes and the emotions of the fight or flight mechanism and the hypervigilance and the brain fog that you live in, so you don't believe you're crazy. You're not crazy. What has happened to you is you've been traumatized through governments, through education, and then through families and through relationships and other situations. We tend to attract to our reality people and situations to fulfill our feelings. So if you grow up in low self-esteem, not good enough, well, what the fuck? How can you possibly know it? How can you be in clarity? When doubt has been cast upon you as a child, how can you possibly not live in doubt as a teenager? And as in your 20s and 30s and then 40s, and then you wonder why all your relationships are dysfunctional and why businesses, you don't succeed in them, and then you're underpaid and you're over-obligating and enabling. Well, that's conditioned behavior. However, all of us can let go of this. It's not something you overcome because that's force. It's letting go. That's surrender. And surrendering in consciousness is not giving up. Surrendering is surrendering your will to continue to hold on, because the ego wants to hold on to that which is familiar. And so, well, who am I going to be if I'm alone? How can how can I have a relationship? How can I find other dysfunctional people when I'm alone? Well, you don't want dysfunctional people. You want to have healthy relationships. You want to attract love, a soulmate, teammates, people you can collaborate with, people you can be in free enterprise business with, or attract employees who can get the job done with you, or multitude of situations where you're not in dis-ease, conflict, fight or flight, hypervigilance, and brain fog. This is evolution. And the evolution of letting go, it doesn't happen overnight. So that means as you begin to let go, it's going to be your responsibility to understand that this isn't ice cream and this isn't alcohol. And it's not instant gratification. Because you let go yesterday doesn't mean your body's going to let go today. It's practice, it's repetition, experience. It's mastering the emotions. It's letting go of not being good enough. It's staying in the process long enough to master the emotions of letting go, the separation from feelings and events. It's giving yourself permission to be lovable, good enough, successful, capable. It's a new integration of word choices. It's being able to feel that energy and stay in it long enough. So, it happens in 12-step groups. It's very common for people to be sober, but still not be good enough, even though they're doing the effort. There's another effort that's required. It's the slight edge that's required in that next level of recovery, sobriety, and consciousness that only a few people put the effort into, and it can be you, because it's not that difficult. It's that there's a state of consciousness that you learn to be and stay in. And so then the communication between the brain and the body is the pleasure isn't worth the pain. I'm not going to relapse emotionally because the pleasure is not worth the pain. And when you've crossed that bridge, then here's what will happen for you. The pleasure wouldn't be worth the pain. I would never do that. I wouldn't do it. It's just, so that's how you let go of an emotional addiction that leads to the outcome that keeps people under-earning, underachieving, keeps people in fight or flight, overwhelmed, in brain fog, and all the other situations. So the communication required to start to communicate in clarity is love, that you love yourself, you love life, that you love people, you have a love for love, and you start to move into that state rather than being critical. You start to find ways to have joy, you create ways that you find bliss, and then you start to scale the map of consciousness, which is the book right here, Transcending Levels of Consciousness, by the late David Hawkins. Hawkins died in 2012, so all the books after his death are a compilation of all of his writings. Now, I bought Hawkins' first book. His first book came out in 2006. It was called Power versus Force. I bought that book in 2008. I began to study that book, especially chapter 8. It's called The Source of Power. Power is the energy that stands alone. It doesn't require any outside influence. Power is its own source. It doesn't deplete itself. And that's how you could be. You can be your own source of energy, where you don't require any outside influence. You don't require instant gratification. You don't require rewards and recognition. And you're your own perpetual machine of self-love. And in that self-love, then you can attract other love that's similar to you, because then you'll start to attract people who believe what you believe in a more frequent rate, in what's called an occlusal alignment. This is when you become skilled at attraction. And the attraction that you create it's from ease, and it's organic. It's not forced. So it's just like advertising. Anytime you advertise, you have to raise the value to offset the cost of the advertising. But when you're attracting organically, and you're attracting organically from service and value, and from skills, habits, and mindset, and from task well done, and you're attracting from that energy, then the cost is different. It's a different value proposition. You're not having to raise the cost of your value. Your value raises itself, and people feel it. And then they want to be connected to you because they feel that you're authentic. They feel you're genuine. And it's not forced. It's power. There's no force in it. And it's ease, and it's bliss. And so this is how you start to attract referrals from people. It's from service and task well done, and being able to suit up and show up every single day because you're in clarity. You know who you are. You know the business that you own. You know that you can deliver the goods. You know what's going on in the world, and people begin to rely on you because you're a source, and you're a source of knowing, and because you know they want to know what you know. and they will want to buy products from you, services, benefits, features, coach with you. Josh just said it's called organic attraction. And that's when I had a former client call me 2 weeks ago, and he said, Jeff, I'll never forget what you told me in 2010. He spent a couple days with me in a program I had called the Millionaire Apprentice back then. His name was Ryan, and he was walking. I had 3 Jack Russells at the time. We took a break and we were walking our Jack Russells, and I was assisting him with a phone script in his prospecting skills back in the day. And he called me up and he said, Jeff, the reason I'm calling you is, and I had taught him that back in 2010. So here he is 12 years later calling me and hiring me to be his coach like this, because he remembered how the service and the value I offered him 12 years ago. And that will happen to you as you stay in this process long enough and you develop those skills, habits, and mindset, and then your consistency at applying your craft and trade, and you continue to scale the map of consciousness in your life and in your business, and then it becomes organic. And this is how you explain the phenomenon of the science of attraction. So the law of attraction has been out there for years, but there's a real skill to attraction. It doesn't happen just magically. It happens because of the person you're becoming, and then it becomes organic. And then you're not like attached and addicted to looking at your looks and likes and comments, and because the right people are always going to show up because you showed up in a relaxed body. So this is good to be here with you this afternoon. Lisa, good to see you. Josh Moran, good to see you. Jim Craycroft, so good to see you. Good to see a lot of you I haven't seen for a long time, so good to be here with you. Every Tuesday at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, I host this Facebook Live. This was originally a live conference call that I started back in 1998. It was originally a Achievement Mastermind Group was the first name of this. It was a live conference call. It started at 5 o'clock Eastern in 1998. And then I moved it to 10:30 Eastern in the early 2000s and rebranded it as More Heart Than Talent. And I kept the More Heart Than Talent brand up until 3 years ago. And then I moved this to Facebook Live at 4 p.m. Eastern every Tuesday. So every Tuesday, I host 2 Facebook Lives, one at 4 o'clock Eastern, then one at 9 p.m. Pacific, which would be 12 a.m. Eastern Tuesday morning. So 2 for Tuesday is every single Tuesday. My name is Jeffery Combs. I am the president and founder of Golden Mastermind Seminars Incorporated. Sarah, good to see you this afternoon. Thank you for joining me. If you were just joining my content this afternoon and you've not experienced a free 20-minute coaching call, you can go right up there. When I point up there, that is my laptop, and right up there is Facebook Messenger. If you want to send me a message and request a free 20-minute coaching call, I would be honored to offer that to you. Whether you're a former client or an existing client, I'll return your message within 24 hours. I have a young woman who I coached when she was 18 years old, re-engaging with me this afternoon. I coached her 18 years old in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, coached with her twice when she's 18. Now she's crushing it in real estate in the Philadelphia market. So looking forward to connecting this afternoon. Lori, good to see you this afternoon. Dana, thank you so much for those kind words. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Lori. Thank you for Lori Germain and Lori Suki, thank you for being on today's Facebook Live. I'll be back here at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, where it crosses over into Wednesday. Have a great afternoon, everyone. Jeffery Combs, good afternoon.